and they're produced by, like I already mentioned, Kaiser Psychology Center. Who we are. Kaiser Psychology Center exists to ignite, nurture, and sustain individuals and communities to realize a balance in mental, physical, and business health. That's the three-pronged approach. And this is done based on research and scientific consistency, where we leverage what we learned from one, broken family systems, seeing as it is that today we are discussing parent, child, and sibling relationships, culture and religion, financial well-being, to mention but a few. And in connection to that, today we are having a topic, parent dash child and sibling relationships. And in today's world, we are in a turbulent time where this relationship is either in some cases severed or in some cases non-existent, and in other cases there was a certain respect that was derived in the past from a parent. To date, we don't know where we're having babies, and in rare cases, we have some excellent parents, depending on the dispensation that they hold culturally or religiously or socially. So I'm very enthusiastic about today's conversation. I would like to welcome once again two of our panelists, Miss Kavagaya Eldrada Estela and the other, Mr. Wesige Banyeji. Um, Mr. Wesige Banyeji, briefly, if you could unmute and tell us what should we expect today as we prepare to start. What should be our expectations today? What do you think when you hear of today's topic? How excited are you? What are the things that should we? What are the things that we should look forward to as we start today's topic?
All right. Thank you so much, Warren. Very happy to be here. Good afternoon, every person that is on the platform. I want to appreciate Humula Therapy and Kaiser Psychology Center for always giving us this opportunity where we get to interact, share ideas, and better each other. My name is Wesige Banyaji, and it's not the first time I'm here. It's been a long time, though. I'm happy to be here once again. I'm a father of two children, a boy and a girl, 6 and 4. I am a brother to 7 siblings. I'm a trained economist. I'm a law student. I'm a radio personality. I work with Cruise FM. I do the country show and the big set. I am a street hustler by and large, really. I am passionate about things to do with family because this is where I believe society is grown and developed and nations thrive. And I believe with the breakdown of family, there is absolutely no existence of any growth whatsoever. Now, when you shared with me this topic of discussion, I was very excited, basically because it touches exactly the things that I'm passionate about, things that turn me on, things that I believe in so greatly. I'm a family man, big time, and the reason is because I've not only done things on purpose, but I was raised in a good family. My parents, the late Ayeba Devanyaji, was a very good man. I continue to say I'd never met a Mchiga man who is as beautiful and had a great soul like my father. God rest his soul in peace. And I can assure you that in everything that I was or I am is always to emulate the kind of father that he was. Growing up, I always had people, appreciate their mothers a bit more and celebrate their mothers. And especially for the boys, they were always very passionate about their mothers. It never seemed to be the same for me. I always wanted to uplift my father because I felt like he had upskilled my mother, even when both parents had done a good job. He was a man who was a police officer. We lived in very meager, using very meager resources. We grew up in a barracks, literally, shared a bedroom with parents. A very hard time, you know. It was not easy, but the fact that he was able to raise 8 children has always baffled me how he was able to do that. But what I expect today majorly is first for myself, because I'm not very academic. Mine is to share from personal experiences, where I come from, where I'm at, and how I perceive certain things. And with parent-child and sibling relationship, it is something that is godly, because I believe it is not only made possible because humans want it so much, but because I believe this is very close to what God believes in. And every parent, I think, would definitely be out to be the best parents that they really can be. But life has changed so much nowadays, where the number of families are even reducing. People are resorting to different forms of description of for family, singlehood, where someone says, I'm a bachelor for life, I'm a spinster for life, and and it's no longer more of the extended families of Africa, where we knew what mattered to my cousin, my second cousin, my stepbrother, my stepsister mattered to me. It's now more of a nucleus family of mother, father, and 3, 4 children. Now, I'm going to be more realistic than the ideal. I'm talking about issues to do with what it is, not what I wished it to be, as far as parenthood is concerned. So much has changed. There's been a drift of how the children relate to parents and the reverse, because of the so many factors that have eaten into this relationship.
Sorry if I might interrupt you just a minute. In relation to that, that will bring me to my first question for you. Do you think, in your own opinion, we live in an era where parenting is getting harder and harder? According to you, what do you think about when you hear the phrase parent-child relationship? Do you think this is an era where that is being attacked grossly, and is it at risk?
Definitely, because the factors or the parameters upon which family stood so strongly in the past have kindly been eroded. We know that now the mothers are now more preoccupied with their career development. The fathers, now it's a very fast world where it's more about the commercial aspects, how big is the basket of commodities that you bring home, than how much care that or attention that you're going to give the children. So because of how fast the world has moved, there is so much that even the parents would never have predicted, because as we all know now, it's way harder to be a parent, because like you opened up saying, now children are having children. If we have 15-year-old girls having a child, how how can even we imagine a situation where a 15-year-old child has to mentor, has to take care, has to provide for a toddler? It's becoming more difficult. But even when you look at the environment upon which this whole parenthood has to be carried out, a lot has changed. With now the internet of doing things, a lot has changed. The children are more exposed to different material, which was never the past. Now, in fact, polygamy is now being phased out. I don't know how much it is, maybe in the rural areas, but now for a man to decide that I'm now going to deal with 2, 3, 4 women, it's harder, because it kills you. The stress that comes with this baggage and the burden of taking care of so many families literally breaks you down. So, and in the past, people would have children because of the luxury that it created, the labor. You would have so many people having to go to the shamba and take care of the agriculture and all that. Nowadays, no one needs to tell anyone that now you must take on a contraceptive and manage the numbers of your family. because it's something that you have to, think of yourself. If you do it your way, chances are that you may have to bear the burden of taking care of this family, or choose to run away and create a consequence of the children that are not looked after, that are not catered for, that have not attained an education, that have no health, cannot access good quality health. So I think so much has changed, and that's the truth. We cannot downplay the influence of the West, the culture from the West. It has played a very big part. Now the children want to be treated how the children they watch in movies and soap operas and reality shows are being treated. We now have a situation where a child will talk back to a parent, they will make a decision on their own. In the very past, we had a child would finish senior six, and the parent would have a big influence on what they have to be in the future. A parent would tell you, you have to do PCBM because I want you to be a doctor. You have to do literature because I want you to be a lawyer. And now a child will say, I want to go into tailoring, I want to be an artist. I want to go into different fields. And it has nothing to do with what our parents were used to. And now we have to just be able to deal with all this because it has created that change that there is. So as a young parent myself, if at all I'm talking about how I've been able to deal with, for example, my siblings, the role that I play in their lives, but also my children. Like I started, I emulate my dad subconsciously with how he did so many of his things. My dad was a very conservative man. He believed in being the head of the family, and 100% provision was from my father. This is how I've treated my children. Maybe it's important to also tell the listener now that I've been a single father for 3 years now. And what it means, I have never looked at any other person to do either, whether maybe because I have maternal advantage knowing that my girl is a bit younger. But even when she grows into puberty, I'm now more prepared, because this is what I've put myself into, that I will have now to teach her about her body and the changes that I have to do, that have to, happen to her body. And I have to be the mentor to the boy and be the father figure that I'm supposed to be. But it is difficult. It's not an easy situation. What have I done is that I have been able to, first of all, get closer to my children. We talk. Honestly, my children are young, but I've taught them that what bothers them bothers me. And what I don't like, they should not like. It has been very open communication, which my father did not have, my parents did not have. They were more unilateral. It was more like the army, where my mother would give a command and would oblige. My father would give a command, by even implication. They would conduct themselves without saying anything, and you would follow, or you would know exactly what they meant. But now the children need more of, communication, really, basically. You will tell, how may I see from my daughter? My daughter is 6 years, but there are things that she's able to tell me, and they catch me off guard. They surprise me, because this is not what I thought of her age being able to maybe comprehend or even communicate. There are things that I tell my children that my parents did not tell me. Things to do with words of affirmation. My parents were not that type. Even when they were amazing, they would never show me of how great I am, how destined for greatness I am, and how I can make things happen, and how handsome I am, and how intelligent I am. My parents didn't do that. But now I know, because of the world that I'm in, people seeking a lot of validation. We see people on social media where someone have to seek validation from even strangers, from even what they call social media in-laws, from the public. They want to be appreciated, be seen in good light, be told off of good things. Now, for me, I've chosen to tell my children their worth even when they are way younger, because they need to hear this, not to wait for the world to tell them of how smart they are, how intelligent they are, of how great they are. But I've not, dropped the road. I am still the conservative parent also on that path. I can cane my child. Trust me, I'm not the type of parent who would think, yeah, you drop the road and you have to be sweet, and how you're going to correct the child is by denying them what they want most. If they want cartoon, and you're going to punish them by telling them that now, because of what you did, you'll not be able to watch cartoon. I'm not that type. I'll pick the road and cane the child. Now, this is how I'm able to relate and, with my children. But also it's important that now I have also learned, to step aside and watch my children and see what turns them on, what they are passionate about, because they are two distinct human beings. I've tended to know. The boy is entirely interested in so many different things from my girl. Even in character, they are completely different. Even what they desire, what excites them, completely different. But I must customize the relationship to mean that what I feel is fit for the boy may not necessarily be fit for the girl. So I don't aggregate them. I relate with them individually and I get to understand them more closer.
I'm glad you've mentioned the distinction in the sexes. You ought to be glad that your children are being raised in Uganda. Otherwise, if it was a different case, they'll probably be telling the girl that, "Are you sure you're a girl? Maybe you
Now
ought to
that,
go
that, that,
somewhere."
that's
But
another
anyway,
bit. Yes.
but anyway, I think that's very, very interesting. You mentioned somewhere about how a child watches a social media, I don't know, influencer or something, or a TikToker, or the online in-laws that you talked about, social media in-laws. According to you, social media and television, don't these have a lot of time or more time than you do with your kids? In the event that you mentioned that you're running about 3 jobs, when in do you spare time to spend with these children, and how often do you do it? Because if you're running 3 jobs like you did, I believe you have a TV set at your home. I believe you have some gadgets somewhere, be it a tablet, be it what. And I believe these children mingle with fellow children, say they're school going. Someone will go to school and the child will tell them maybe about TikTok, and they'll be curious. Or maybe they'll go to Cartoon Network, or maybe they'll go to TV and watch a soap or watch something. Don't you think this has an influence on these children? Because me, I've walked into rooms where a Netflix show is running, and then I see 2 men in the bed kissing, and this is accessible to children. Netflix is, as a matter of fact, if you got a primary school children, the way they can maneuver through Netflix is probably with more precision than you. So, according to you, don't you think these things are doing a lot more parenting than we are? Or that for you that are actually parents, do you think these things in turn affect those children, their decisions, their choices, their orientations, their careers, the things that they choose to magnify or ignore altogether in terms of the choices that they're going to make eventually?
Yeah, but you see, because this is what we have to deal with, we cannot satanize social media and the internet of doing things because this is what it is. In our past, in the 90s when I was growing up, this wasn't the case. So the challenges that our parents were exposed to were not exactly this. But now we have to adjust. We cannot deny the children from having access to this information because sometimes 80% it's beneficial to the children. When the children are exposed to, some of the videos, some of the things that are happening on social media and the content, if they're able to improve their literacy with reading and comprehension, this is nice stuff. We cannot say because internet has pornography, because it's perpetuating homosexuality and the evil of society. It is a difficult situation and it's hard times to be alive right now, where the West is trying, because I am completely against homosexuality. I have never believed it to be true. I believe it's an illusion. I believe it's just denial of what God created the human being to be. I think it's selfish, but also we have to accept that the children are going to be exposed to this literature. How about now if you sit down your child and you explain to them and you let them know how evil these things are, what you think would work against the children? Because they need to know. Otherwise, if you keep the information away from them, they will be curious to find out. You never know that they would go ahead and actually utilize what you would think would be bad for them. So the best parent, in my opinion, would be to simply educate the children, expose them to as much material as you can, but basing on the different segments. A child of between 0 to about 5 years definitely will consume different material from a child between 5 to about 7 to 8, up to about 12 when she's entering through the teenage years, up to about 18. So you give them small bits, small portions of what you think they can, comprehend and understand. For example, if at all you stopped a child from watching cartoon when she's 5, 3, 6 years because you think there's going to be a piece of two cartoons that you see to be male and they are being intimate, if you told that child that this is wrong, would they be able to understand what you're talking about? If you're lucky enough for them to be able to comprehend and understand what is happening, perhaps you break it down for them of how evil the sin is, of how disgusting and unacceptable, or even go ahead and look for cleaner versions. Because even when the dirty and satanic influence of the West in some of these things with their culture is concerned, they've been able to be good enough to provide alternatives. I believe there are still clean literature. There is still clean literature and material that our children can be exposed to. How about if at all we let them consume that, than consuming something that is lukewarm or accommodates what we think is against the African culture? So the internet of doing things and social media is not something that we can sidestep. We must incorporate it into raising the children because now they are sharper. You cannot take it away. The children are sharper than we were. And they must consume this information because it is what it is. You cannot say now my children will be blinded and put aside and put away from the world and how fast the world is moving because I don't want them to be spoiled. I don't want them to be influenced. It's not possible. The best thing would be to deal with what it is and try to maneuver through and give your children as much time as you can to personalize it. Unfortunately for me, because I'm up and down, my sister and mother are doing a bigger job of nurturing the children. But I spend time with them. I get to talk to them. I visit them in school. I try to find out their interests. I give them an ear to make sure that they are speaking as much as they can, and I'm doing so much of the listening and answering so many of the questions that they raise. Does it mean I'm a perfect parent? Absolutely not. There are mistakes and areas that I can grow because how old am I? I'm literally about 33. There are lots of things that I don't know myself that I need to be mentored about that perhaps I will have to first learn first before I even teach it to my children. So it is, a work in progress. It's a journey that we are going to choose as parents to take on. And I believe that by God's grace, we shall raise the best generation that there is.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Westgate Banyaji. According to Mr. Westgate, there's nothing we can do about these things that are influencing our children. The only thing we can do is try and explain to the children what's going on, help them maneuver through, help them understand what is good and what is bad for them, help them understand what they ought to filter when they're watching, what they ought to do. I was visiting a certain home one time, and a lady told me that one of her brothers-in-law said their child landed on a pornographic video, I think, when they were perusing through the phone. And apparently, he exclaimed to the siblings that this is for mommy and daddy, we shouldn't watch it. And it seemed to me that these people were exclaiming that this was justifiable, the fact that the child was informed of the fact that such content, be it from the parents or school or from friends, that such content is for adult consumption strictly. See, say mommy and daddy in that particular context. But then again, it struck me, a thought struck my mind, and I realized, wasn't this person a little bit lazy and clumsy with their phone, having pornographic content on your phone and freely handing it over to the child, and the mere fact that the child can access it as easily as they did, isn't that detrimental in a way? Isn't that laxity on the part of the parent? Um, I leave that question up to you. But for now, I would like to welcome the other panelists today, Miss Kawagaya Eldrada Estela. to give us more insight. She's a founder and director of Mama Children's Village Limited. She works with children, and we hope to get a lot of information and insight about today's topic from her, like she had already introduced herself earlier on for those that were on the dialogue from the very beginning. According to you, Miss Kabagaya, what do you think about today's topic? And if I may ask, maybe just a question or two. Um, According to you, the traditional parenting style, was it ideal? And do you think its erosion is the reason for the shooting up of immorality in the younger generation? Because let's face it, today's generation is so eroded in terms of morals, especially sexually. You find a child no older than 13, 15, telling you they've lost their virginity. According to you, what do you think about this? And where does that come in when it comes to the parents, when it comes to the job of the parents and the siblings as well? Because you have older siblings, you have older siblings. I remember at campus, I used to see people that are from the same family doing things almost together in terms of they've gone out and one has gone to fornicate in the other room and the other has gone to fornicate in the other room, and there's no one regulating the other, even when there's an incidence of one being older than the other. I think if I were to engage in such activity whatsoever, in my own opinion, I would try and make sure I stay away completely from from my siblings, or I hide it from them. That is if I actually engage in it, not that I would openly do it in the hopes that they would encourage it or something like that. So, in your opinion, what do you think? If you could unmute and give us your side of the story.
Okay, thank you so much, Warren. Good afternoon, everyone. Like he said, my name is Stella Kabagaya, Mama Children. You've asked serious questions, Warren. You've even worried me. Let's go back to your first question about parenting. Was the old kind of parenting worth it? Was it reliable? Was it in our days, me who is now 40 plus, we grew up in a generation where it took the whole village to nurture a child. So where your particular parent was not, there was a whole community to support you. So everyone had a responsibility to help support how you were nurtured. So in that way, the whole community was responsible for Estella's behavior. If as I walked around the village, my mother didn't see me abusing the neighbor or being conned around by with the boy, but my neighbor saw me. He would caution me and I would take that caution serious. When you come to parenting these days, maybe Warren, you're not a parent, but when you come to parenting these days,
I don't know
we
whether I should say fortunately or unfortunately, but no, not yet. I am not.
you'll soon be. Don't worry, you will get on
Not
board.
not that
So
I know of anyway.
that is a good question. But also parenting these days, everyone has their own style of parenting, and we don't want to be shown unacceptable. This is my own statement. Unacceptable kind of parenting. Me, Estella, because I grew up in a small family, they used to beat me. I don't want my children to grow up like that. That is what majority think. Because I grew up collecting water and being punished by the neighbor, I don't want anyone to scold my child. That is what makes us absolutely wrong. We are passing on something wrong. Some of us parents were not parented, by the way. Estella, I was well parented, and I'm proud of my parents because they showed me the right path, and that is the same I'm showing. I accept with Minister Wesige. Me, I'm not ashamed to scold a child if they've done something wrong. If it's worth a beating, you'll earn a beating. That one is not negotiable. But it's not because you've done something that I should sweet talk about it. No, something wrong has to be punished, and it must be punished. And according to Mama Children, if it's 1 week punishment, it's 1 week punishment. If it's a slap, it's a slap. Now, Why do we do that? Even biblically, they say, spare the rod. Okay, they use that word rod. But also rod, punishing a child or making them right, does not only meaning the rod, the cane, the slap. Sometimes we can just speak all the other way around. Listen to the children and understand them. Whereas in the modern times, like Mr. Wesige was trying to say that there is times have changed, so we have to do most of the listening so that we understand the children, we understand. It looks like it's today's kind of setting, but I personally, in my 1980s, my father's kind of punishment, he first listened to you before he punished you to know the reasons as to why you did what you did. As a parent, surely you must always have dialogue with your child. You must always be able to listen to the other side of the story. Some of these things children do or we've done from time memorial, you have to listen to me. Sometimes I misbehaved because I was misled. Sometimes I jumped over the fence, maybe for security reasons. So if we give them an opportunity to express what they are going through, it helps us, me as a senior parent of this country, and other parents, to find relevant solution. Because if for example today everywhere we say that the children are rowdy, the children don't listen, we generalize things. So whatever solution we come with is equally general. But how about you pick out individuals and they're like, let me listen to the children and understand them. The power is in the listening. I'm not doing this because it's in the dot-com era. No, my father, I'll always give an example of my father because he was in the other generation. He always listened even before he punished you and say, with other factors constant, now this is the punishment. Because he knew why you did it, you tried to explain, he had to understand the other side of the story. It is applicable also today. Well, people have just gone overboard that if you're going to help a child and parent them well, you must listen to them. Parents these days, unfortunately, they can't listen and they don't have time to listen. Now, that is what makes them different or even worse than the previous parents. Most of the parents in my generation, before they listened to you, you first had to be beaten. That was the parenting style of majority. These days, we don't listen, we don't even scold. Now, that is double tragedy, an atomic bomb. How are we going to parent people we don't listen to, we do not communicate to, we do not have time? Time. The cheapest thing you can give a child is time. You don't have time to listen to them. Then how are you going to parent them? How are you going to lead me if you cannot listen to them, even if I was a child? So parenting these days, one, most parents were not parented, so they cannot parent. They can't give what they don't have. So all of us are just too, I parent my own style, you parent your own style. So we don't have a common kind of parenting that will help our children in case we leave this world, because everyone will be on their own. I would suggest the previous parents of our generation were far better. They were far better than us, me as a parent, and us, the parents of today. Unless we get back the basics of parenting, we are going to lose the next generation. Then you asked a question about sexuality, that Warren, you said sexuality is on the rise. Yes, Warren?
I said there is a lot of morality with the young children.
Immorality in the young
You could
children, yes.
actually listen to a child swearing. A child who's no more than 5 years is swearing. Maybe if I
Those
could give
big
you
words.
a personal account. I grew up with,
Mm,
for lack of a better word, an overly strict mother.
yes.
Overly strict to the point that you as a child, you'd actually feel nagged. You'd be like, but this lady. But
Mm,
as I grew up, I started getting appreciation for the way because I pretty much grew up with my mother. She's
mm,
together with my dad. They separate, but my dad was never around. He was always working. He was always on the road. He was always up country, out of the country, things like that. So it's I grew up with such a mother that was way too much when it came to handling us with the iron hand. I
Iron
cannot
hand.
remember how many I was whipped as a child. I was a very stubborn child, but it's only now that I appreciate the things that she did. And that is why I brought in that question of traditionality, those traditional parents who don't care about what the government says about whipping your child or hitting your child.
Mm.
Immorality is what I was talking about.
Now, when it comes to immorality, Warren and the team on the youth dialogue, immorality has stayed way longer than now. What we are realizing now is that it has become, we have the social media and things like that that show us what is happening. In my days, we never had social media, so you could not understand the level of immorality in one space or another. Let's look at where you say the 5-year-old using big words, especially that one. Usually they swear with a very big letter. That one, it comes from home. Okay? Okay, Ran. It comes from home. In my days, we used to have parents, we used to have mothers, especially mothers, who would swear words that are bigger than you. You know, they would assure you and use those big words. Children would come to school and use the same words. Most of us who grew up in my generation would agree that there was always this very rich man from Bukoto. He used to be called Zimla. No, he was called, was a contractor. Well, the name has skipped, but he was known for using big words. And his children in school always swore by those big words. And even if he came to scold them, he would use the same big words. It all comes back to us, the parents. We usually watch TV, the fathers are .com, the mothers are .com. So what the word passes. So the child thinks it's a normal word. Just like us in nowadays, where they were using those bulky words, parents still speak those words without be feeling ashamed or worrying about the people near them. And unfortunately for us young parents, whereas me I'm old, young mothers, .com mothers, we think it's the lifestyle, it's the .com, me I'm .com, we use those languages, oh my God, you know, then they use it, forgetting that these younger ones below 8, 5, 3, they pick up every tit and bit. They pick up every tit and bit. So what they pick up is what they're going. Because these children at that tender age, they are learning. So whatever you throw at them, that is what they take them. So as they grow into 5-year-olds, they go to school, they use the same words. Now, when they call you, Warren, and other people on board to school, that your child is using this word, you can even, a parent might even end up using the same word. Now, just that word, now you teach us what kind of human beings are you. Because my child just said one word. So as you're saying that, attacking a teacher, the child is watching, is like, oh, so even this teacher has no value, no right or moral authority to attack me because the mother has done the same thing. So the child continuously uses this word. Me as a teacher or the teacher, whoever is responsible, will not scold the child, will let the child be. The child will equally go into the wrong direction. Because remember, we take children to school because that is the best parenting partner. And that's what parents forget. A school, a teacher is your best parenting partner you have, who can help you scold or help you grow your child morally. So as the kid keeps growing, you're not scolding them. You're even telling them, how can you dare use that word? And you laugh at it, so the kid knows it's funny and continues to always use it. Because you don't want to hurt your child's feelings, you don't want to make them cry, you let them be, and they use the word. So gradually it grows, and for them they are growing, they think it's right. You're not scolding them, then it's okay. So as they grow, they take to use that word. Now, how do the morals keep on decaying? I would say, I would call it moral decay in this generation that we are in. well, seen the parents who use those words. Then comes to what I would call exposure to sexuality, even at a tender age. In my days, it was an abomination for a mother or even a parent to walk around the house half naked, I would say, even if just in a bra. We are in a generation for us who are .com. You come back home, you throw away your blouse and move around your house. Your kid is 3 years, 4 years, staying in a bra. The father is walking around in a boxer. You are naked before the child. Okay? Then also as young women, let's first leave technology to blame technology. For us young mothers, some of us are single. I have 5 boyfriends. I'm speaking on the phone and they come home, we hug, we kiss. Who am I exposing to all this nonsense? It's the child. So as the child grows, even at 3 years, even at 1 year, they know it's right to kiss. They know it's right to do X, Y, Z. Because me, the mother, I'm thinking that child is still young, but I'm exposing a very young brain that picks everything. I'm morally destroying this child's brain. By the time the child is 5, 3, we've seen on social media videos going around, kids behind walls having sex or what. They have been exposed by one of the greatest thing we all underlook, the home, the parents. Then when you leave the parents aside, we usually blame the maids. No, first leave to blame the maids. You have siblings. Some of these children have older siblings. They might be teens. Teens have emotions. Teens are growing. They're bringing boyfriends. They're bringing girlfriends at home. They're kissing around. A 5-year-old is watching. They think it's normal. And when they try even to tell you, the parent, that Paul has a friend, Sarah, and they were doing X, Y, Z, and you're like, this girl is stupid, or she's lying, or the older one will defend, and you think it's wrong. This kid who is younger will grow up thinking everything is right, so everything will be wrong throughout. And taming a broken child is extremely very hard. As parents these days, we have failed. Our parenting is wrong. We have failed. And before even we blame the television, who is children's best friend, we should look at ourselves. What are those things we've done that have exposed these children to immorality? As parents, do we kiss around the house? Do we walk half naked? Do we use vulgar language, intended or unintended? Let's work on that. Because if we work on ourselves, then it will be easy to tell these children that word is wrong. If also you've corrected yourself, you'll be able to tell this child it's not right to kiss when you also don't do it in public. It will be right to tell this child to dress appropriately. These are private parts, they should be inside, if equally yours, are not being exposed in the whole house. So the whole thing comes in how we parent. It's the parent's greatest responsibility to make sure all these things are handled from a home. The children, wherever they will go, whatever they will be exposed to, they will be able to guard against. If a child is exposed to sexuality, naked people, she will be able to know that it's not allowed at home. Even you'll be able to say it's not allowed, because you are the greatest example. You are the greatest role model they have to look up to. So when it comes to immorality, it starts at home. But then also, as times have changed, we have broken away from the old kind of communal parenting. So even if Estella was able to correct your child, you don't allow me to. You would say I'm trespassing on your family issues. So I would not do it. So I will not help the child. And if the child lives in a community, I will not help the child. I'll find your child using the vulgar language. I'll find your child half naked. I'll find your child engaged in any illicit activities. I'll keep quiet because I cannot help you. You don't allow me to help you. So this parenting of these days, people don't want, maybe they want to be helped, but they don't say it. But because everyone wants to parent their own style, then it's hard to help with parenting. So our parenting is bad, and it's the cause of the morality, poor moral degradation in this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madame Kawagaya Eldrada Estella. According to you, it's we need intentional parenting. We need parents that are intentional about this thing called parenting.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
I before I call on the next presenter, because I understand she's logged in using a different gadget due to the difficulties she was facing, and I need to know. I need to know, according to you, this whole thing of a community raising a child. You mentioned something about someone can't meet your child and say something. In the world today, I remember myself in my own experience.
Mm,
I have an uncle who approached me one time. I was seated by the roadside, and this time I was actually in the village. And he called me forth. He said, "You young people need to look for us. We are tired of you being so proud. We are tired of you being so full of yourselves. You all young people need to look for us, the old people, because we have a lot of wisdom to share with you." And
mm,
in that moment, I was I'm usually a very humble guy when it comes to people older than me. But I said, "Shame on you. You have an issue with discussing with my parents, with your brothers. Your conflicts are very public. We can even see them. So
mm,
if you, the old people, have an issue connecting, if you who are siblings that were born of the same dad, same mother, or maybe let's say same dad, different mothers, but you grew up in the same space, in the same
mm,
probably same household, you are having very public conflicts when it comes to us children. And
mm,
parents have this issue. I'm sorry to say, but mothers
mm.
have this issue where if the 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 family of the of the guy has an issue with her, somehow she wants to push her children away from
Away.
that family.
Mm,
And I think we need to have a balance. We need to strike a balance between having complementarity rather than competition in terms of families in that sense. We need to
mm,
have, in my opinion, parents that do not push their own vendettas onto their children.
mm,
You, even when you think someone is going to be harmful, probably you give caution where necessary, but I don't think you ultimately push for it without having reservation to the fact that this is a child, and whether or not you like it, these are this child's parents, and say maybe relatives to the dad. The same way you have sisters that you would love your maybe your children to be close to, or what, or things like that. And
yes.
that community kind of setting where the
Parenting.
entire community raises a child. Mm.
Mm,
I think it's long lost now, because now it's come back from school, getting to the compound. Even when a sister visits, you probably don't want them to spend so much time, because now everything is financial. I'm having very many
yes.
heads to. You can't come
To
and hang
feed.
around for as long as you want to. No, but for me, the issue is I think we need intentional parenting, like you were talking about. We
Yes.
need to stop these things of just thinking about, say even if you're to talk about a marriage or something. Whereas ladies are very excited about the bridesmaids' colors and the color of the cake, or what flavor was it. Mm. The truth of the matter is that is only a 1 day event. The reality is far longer than that. Which person are you starting a life with? Which person are you going to spend the rest of your life with? So we like
It's a long journey.
ceremonial things, but we
Yes.
do not put so much into consideration the things that follow when after that. So I would like to thank you so much for that input. Please briefly allow me before I open the conversation to the general audience. Please note that there are some in-call messages that can be sent. You'll see the option on your screens. You can send
Yes.
in your messages, and if anyone has a query or question to ask, there is that hand signal on your screen. You can tap on it, and then we'll call on you. So at this
Okay.
juncture, I would
Then,
like
Warren,
to
can I add something?
please, but briefly, such that I can call
Yes, briefly.
the
You've spoken about the way us mothers, which is very true, us mothers want to influence even the other side where we're married. Okay? the whole thing is that it goes back to the personality and the person and how they grew up. Like I said, you cannot parent if you are not parented. These mothers are insecure because even originally in their families they felt insecure. They feel their children are not insecure in the families where they are married because they themselves they had maybe sibling rivalry while growing up, so they think this is going to continue, and that's why they are guarding a lot. They don't want the community, especially the close relatives, to come into interference with their parenting. Also, the reason why most of the African families, we have sibling rivalry when we are young. So when you grow up, you continue with that sibling rivalry. So my children do not talk to your children. So we keep on carrying that forward, and that's what causes, like your uncle who is calling it, there is a communal, well-known rivalry within the family. So we keep on pushing. It's like in our DNA, we keep on pushing our problems to the next generation. So that is an effect of sibling rivalry and not resolved when they were young, and now they're carrying it on into their adulthood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Kabagaya Eldrada Estella, for that very rich input, very detailed, very well articulated. We always love hosting panelists that are so articulate in expressing their views, because we value articulation, proper articulation. That can be the thin line between making a change using these dialogues. So we ever so much appreciate that articulation. Um, I would like right now to call Miss Molly Businji Katewa, a life coach who is, in a sense, part of us, because she's been part of so many of these dialogues. Last week, we had a dialogue about social media, and therein, people suggested that we should have a dialogue about parenting, because the two, in a sense, were going hand in hand. So this is why this week we decided that we should extend, in a sense, last week's dialogue by formulating one about parenting and its importance. Mm. So Miss Molly Businje, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Miss
Hello.
Molly Businje?
Yes.
Your volume is quite low. Could you please speak into the mic?
Um. Hello.
Yes, hello.
You can hear me?
I can, but your volume is still very low, and I believe it could be all over. Everyone might be experiencing the same. And I'm getting feedback from your audio.
Okay. I'm trying to raise the volume. Up to now, you're not hearing me.
It has improved. It's still low, but at least now I think now we can.
Okay.
So maybe you can tell us what you think about today's topic: parent-child and sibling relationships.
Okay. Thank you. I've already been
Dr.
introduced.
Gamba,
Sorry for...
please mute your microphone.
Hello. You can hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. And she's the one using that Rutagumba. So
Yes, I'm using
please
someone
give
from
us your
There
input.
is someone else who has, whether they are seated two in the same place. So if there are two people in the same place, then one should like mute their volume.
Thank you so
Warren,
much.
please
I
hold
think
on
I saw a
and carry on with
candidate
some other panelists
who
as
could
she
actually
organizes
solve
that. So
problems. Hello. Yeah, so about parenting, thank you for the person who was sharing before me. I found when she has started, so I got just a few from her. I don't know what she shared or she didn't share. But my take about parenting, I believe that parent-child relationship is that relationship that is unconditional, emotional. It lays a foundation for the father figure in her life is the first man they encounter in life. So the relationship they have with their father will determine all the relationship they will ever have in life. If it is good, you'll find this child is surviving, is flourishing even in other relationships. If it is bad and has left many scars upon her, these are the people we see in society who use words like I don't care, even my father, I failed them, so they don't submit, they don't want to, they have collision at work because of bosses, because they do not want to submit to any authority because they never submitted to their father. The same applies to the boys. The mother is the first woman they encounter in life, so their relationship will also determine their relationship with other women in life. So we must know that as parents, we are the first figures in our children's life, and we have the highest voice, by the way. I know we are competing with social media and many other things, but a parent in the child's life still has the highest level their voice is more heard when they can trust you and they know that you are trustable. These children can confide in you with anything. So I believe that us as parents, we must be very intentional. Like I found someone saying, parenting is not, it is not about giving birth, it is not about having money, working and providing for your children. Or that one is just part of it, but parenting goes far away from that. I want to quote some quotes which says that behind every child who believes in himself or herself is a parent who first believes in them. So the way you relate with your child and the way what you teach them, the values and the principles that you put in them will determine what they become tomorrow. The best inheritance anyone can give to their children is their time and the moral principles that will help them tomorrow. Because we have seen even from everywhere, you also can testify that we have seen parents who leave their children with everything, but they vanish within no time. Why? Because they don't even have the principles. They even don't know how things were done, so they end up vanishing in air. But we have seen people who come from nothing and they become something because for us who believe in the Bible says, train up a child in a way they should go. When they grow, they will not divert from it. So this means that a child is trained right out from down. We do not. You don't wait for a child to reach 30 years and start training them. No, a family is the first baseline of a child. Whatever relationship they experience in their family will determine how they are going to even relate with others. So if they come from a loving family, a supporting family, where parents can have trained them the right principles and the right values, they will continue to emulate and live that. But like my colleague said, I had her talk about that some parents don't know how to parent because they were not parented. But on the contrary, me, I believe that as we grow, we must have that ability of unlearning. I was not trained, where I was not raised, where I didn't have a role model, where I didn't was not taught this and this. I grew up in different families because I come from a family where we are very many. My father had many wives, and like a result of one of the concubines. But I believe that they say that we might not change our past, but we can change our future. I have grown up and I have been intentional. I've taught myself things. And right now, as I speak, I'm a mother of three. I have teenagers and even other kids down. But I've been able to parent them, not because I was parented, but because I had to borrow knowledge. I had to read. I have to copy from other people. That's why you find people at times, like even in jobs, they migrate. If you are in an area and you see you're not benefiting, you migrate for better opportunities. So I believe that regardless of where we come from, we can still be intentional and say we want to change our future tomorrow. So your children must see you as a role model. If you, the parent, are not a role model to your children, then just know that the children are just going to be a product of you, a worse product of you in future. Children learn from adults. I reached when my colleague was talking, was answering the question which Warren asked, that children are sexually active these days. But these things, they learn them from us. They learn them from their homes. The children who abuse, children who fight, they learn them from our homes. They are taught by our own aunties, our own sisters, our maids at school. So if you are not there as a parent, be intentional and listen to what they have heard, what they have experienced. You will not know how to alter those things. Every day my children come from school and come and tell me, Mommy, today they told us this. Is it true? You must be there to listen what they that you stand for. I always tell my children, we are different in as much as other people are doing this. For us, these are things we believe in. Children's mind are like how you say, like a blank check. A check that is there, they can give you to write any money you want. So what you put on that money is what they will go with. We call it, they normally say that we call children monkey see, monkey do. What they see you do is what they are going to do. Attention what we home. We must be very intentional, knowing that we have these children who are watching us, and if we are not careful, they will be the worst product of us or the best version of us. So you don't have to be perfect, because insist. Children will want to push because they are good at breaking boundaries, but you must insist and say no. These are our principles. We have a girl who is a teenager. She comes, oh, Mama, I want to do this. So like, no, in this family for us, that is why they are different families. For us, we believe in this. And one thing that I need us to know, when you're telling these children to do things, do not command them. Instruct them with a rationale. What do I mean? You tell, like for example, a professional midwife. But when we are learning at school, when they tell us you must do something, but they give you a reason. If you say, they say don't do this, they don't only tell you don't do this, they tell you don't do this, because when you do this, this and this will happen. The consequences, the good things, and the results. So most times we grew up in a culture where we're commanded, don't do this, but you don't know why. So we must come to that level where you tell your children, I do not want you to do this. Why? Because this and this and this is the bad thing of it, this is the good thing of it. Choices are part of life. So you give them that. They know that if they do it, these are the results. So if they go ahead and do it, and the results come, you tell them, didn't I tell you? There they will know that you don't only just say don't, because we grew up in a generation also where everything was don't. You don't ask why, when, where. We do it was as long as someone has told you don't do this, you don't do it. So since we are living in a different generation, we must know and put ourselves, but we must navigate and find a way how to balance both sides. So children will always want to. There is that inborn capability of a human nature of wanting to do, to copy, to see, to do whatever they pick from here and here. But you must guide them, because you are projecting them to a future which they don't know. You are like their guide, like how we go in a national park and a guide takes you around. You want to see elephants, you don't know where they are. You want to see lions, you don't know where they are. So a guide is the one who knows that elephants are found in this place And if you want to see elephants, you must go at this time. Then you must dress like this. You must do this, this, and this. So as parents, we must know that we are the guides of our children. If you parent them carelessly, that's what they will become even more than even what the worst version of yourself. So we must be intentional. We must be purposeful. We must have a vision for our children. We must be down and be available. We must listen to them and know their feelings about things and see how to help them. Because if you're not there to support them emotionally, spiritually, and any other area, most of us will know how to support them financially, but we must know that emotional support, intellectual support, and every spiritual support, and all the other areas, they are very vital. Money is good. Yes, I know we are working looking for money, but we must know that when a child there is no money which can buy a child. And spoiled. So you must balance. Money is you need it, but also the future of your child, morally, spiritually, physically, academically matters. And for them to succeed, you get them someone. You don't know what someone is going to teach your child. If a child comes and asks you about sex education, why do you send them to someone else for you? Don't you know the sex education? Tell them the little that you know and start from there. When you send them to another person, what if they want to misuse them and tell them? So you must be very intentional.
Okay, Miss Mole, since I'm going to thank you thus far for the presentation, and I'll ask you to mute your microphone because we're getting a lot of feedback. Um, now I see today we have a lot of listening, and no one is querying really. I don't know whether it's an issue of people understanding everything, or people are not so much in disagreement with what every presenter is giving. But I can see the consensus is that it's intentional parenting. We need intentional parenting. We need parents raising children and not children having babies having babies and babies raising babies. But furthermore, I would like to, like I said, if anyone has a query, there's that hand signal. You can raise it and I'll point you out or identify you and ask you to give us what you think or tell us what you think. Right now, I'd like to re-engage Mr. Wesige. Oh, before I do, Mr. Katunji, Eric raised a hand. Mr. Katunji, you can unmute and tell me what you think. What's the issue?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. And Warren, I would like to know from the panelists. I was thinking when Eldrada and Madam Molly were presenting. Do you, in your opinion, think that this behavior, looking for to analyze behavior of certain tribes, because before that they were clans, before that they were homesteads, to say that normally these kind of people behave like this? Is it a parenting thing? Is it that these different communities that were geographically different is what determines a certain behavior that at the end of the day we call culture? If that is so, what opportunity or challenge do you see in innovating a new culture, and what would it be? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Let me see if I understand your question. Are you talking about a general culture for, let's say we are talking about the context of Uganda? Are you talking about a general context for the, let's say, Uganda as a whole,
okay.
to
Because
incorporate a particular culture?
yeah, what I learned, okay, like for me, what I perceived from the presentation is that because, yes, for me, I've always been one to blame technology, but, well, Madam Eldrada has said that, Madam Molly said that that parents are still the biggest voice. So if we are to put the universe a little bit in rewind, we get to see that certain behaviors of particular communities, yeah, if I'm to narrow it at, should I say, tribal level, yeah, are inherited from what the parents taught us, what the parents of those parents taught them, yeah. So, and my question is culture a source of parenting? If so, what opportunities are there now in innovating a new culture? Is that better, Warren?
Yes, it's much better. Let me call on Madame Eldrada Estela Kawagaya. Let me call on Madame Estela Kawagaya Eldrada to give us what she thinks about what the Katunji Eric has raised. Madame Estela, what do you think about what he's talking about?
Sorry, Warren, can you repeat for me? I was attending to someone here briefly. Yes, please.
Maybe let me Katunji again to rephrase his question. Just shorten it and rephrase it for her. She's at a children's home.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Let me try and shorten it. Yeah, Madam Eldrada, my phrasing was, I learned from, given the presentation of Mole Businje that the parents have the biggest voice in the behavior of a child. I perceived that behavior is sourced from a parent. And now if I'm to reflect it on communities, yeah, if you're to look at a tribal level, you find that people in a certain geographical setting behave in a certain way because they were taught to behave that way. So I could see that we derive culture. Culture was invented by parenting style of particular communities. So that is what I perceived. So my question now is, currently, given that we are at a midpoint of a transition in terms of how we behave as communities, what opportunities are there of shaping a new culture?
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Culture is culture. I would say it has values, and it's these values that the parents had, and they would send out to make within the community. A parent still has a great role to play in shaping the values of the child. We as parents, we as parents still have a lot, because now we are in a mixed kind of culture, especially when you look like, for example, in the central, we now have mixed cultures. So that means a variety of values. What is the parent's greatest role? You have the greatest input to your child to imprint, to pass on the values you still believe. If you leave it to the world, if you leave it to this mixed culture in the community, then you let it go. Why they used to say it takes a village to nurture a child? Because they had the same values. They held on to the same values of nurturing the children. Now we don't hold the same values as parents. My values are different from yours. So I may not pass on the values you believe in. The parent still has to go back to the drawing board. Unfortunately, the parent also is lost. Otherwise, it takes the parent to go back to the drawing board and know, this is the culture I want, and this is what the legacy I want. I have to imprint this culture. I have to set the same values. These are the values I want for my children. This is the culture I want for my children. They have themselves to do it. And if they can't do it, then they have to find someone trusted and reliable with the same values, same culture to support them, because parents can't give what they don't have. So to make sure the same values, the same old culture, because now we have a lot of and a variety of cultures, as the parent, set your values, set your culture. If you cannot do it, then find a trusted and reliable person with the same values and culture to support you. Our children will not go wrong. That I believe. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Madame Eldrada, for that input. According to her, it's in the past we had a society sharing values, but now we have more outlined differences in financial status. We have more outlying differences in education levels. We have more outlying differences in career paths. We have more outlined differences, especially with the intermarriages that have gone on. We have more outlying differences thanks to the access that different communities have to media, to social media, to the entire world, to the entire dispensation of information. So these differences are elaborate, and according to her, the parent now ought to take the sole responsibility of ensuring that the child has values. That being said, I believe, however, a parent or any individual, according to me anyway, which would lead me maybe to before I call someone else that raised the query. I believe it was a lady that raised the query. If as a culture, I think one of the reasons that we are suffering is because we tend to want to incorporate cultures that are not our own. You have no appreciation of your culture, but you're talking about a white man's culture and magnifying it and putting it up there as being superior to your own, and yet you have no appreciation of your own. So I think those are the issues that we face, because the infrastructure that we have, the education systems that are in place, the institutions that disseminate information are not tuned to that of the white man. So we can't fully incorporate his culture. And seeing as it is that some of these things actually erode so much our culture, we find ourselves at a disadvantage. I would like to ask Mr. Wesige Banyoji to tell us what he thinks about.
Hello? Can I add on something small?
Yes, please. Although we keep getting feedback, I don't know why. Yes, but you can, of course.
Thank you. I wanted to first of all thank you, Katunj, for asking. But if I was to ask you before I answer you, what kind of a child do you want to see tomorrow? If you had a child today, what would you want him or to be? What do you envision? What kind of a child do you want to see tomorrow? Mr. Katunj is there or he has gone? So depending on his question,
right
his
here.
answer, I would yes. I was saying that before I answer you, I would like to know you as a person,
Yes.
Mr. Katunj, what kind of a child would you want to see tomorrow? If you had a child, or if you have, what kind of a child do you want to see tomorrow?
I think
I will still answer you, but
I would
want
look
to
at
see
compassion, good level of compassion, as a very, very important quality.
Okay, what I wanted to say is cultures are good, and our societies have cultures, and that one we won't deny it. It has good and bad things that we appreciate and others we don't appreciate. But you, as a person, what is the right and the wrong that you see about culture? So as a person, you must pick that is wrong and leave what is. You must pick what is right and leave what is wrong, because you are not going to incorporate everything because you are in a culture. No, there are things which you see that they are right, and there are things which you see that they are wrong. You promote which are the ones which are right, and then refuse what is wrong. So you as a parent, you must set values and structures of how you want your child to be tomorrow, the kind of person you want, and guide them in that way and promote that. But we will not take everything that culture offers, or our school offers, or even our neighbors offer. No, you must know that you're different and set different values for yourself. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you. Back to Mary.
Mr. Katunj. Yes, Mr. Katunj, I think you've had Miss Molly's input. I hope she's in part answered your question. I don't know if it were
That's
me,
okay.
but I don't know if it were me, but you kind of froze when she asked her question. She wanted to maybe to get an understanding of what kind of child are you looking to raise? What are the values you hold as an individual? Because let's face it, if you hold no value, your parent, in the
Actually,
true sense of the word.
yeah, surprisingly, I have no clear clear cut image of the child, or specific. I've not really outlined or given a clear thought of that.
Is it something
I was just now guessing whatever is in my mind.
Yeah, is it something you hope to clarify in the near future? Because I know for a fact you to have children.
I believe the essence, like you talked about, intentional. We are not intentional. We are looking at the flavor of the cake more than the output we are really going to have. I think now that's the takeaway lesson I move on with.
Yes. Mr. Anthony, before I allow you to speak, let me ask Mr. Wesige a question. Mr. Wesige, are you still with us?
I'm clearly following, and I have to appreciate all the presenters for their contribution.
Yes. According to you, the other part of this presentation, of course, I talked about sibling relationships when I was talking about my uncle, giving the example of my uncle, where I called him out and said, you've not given us an example to live by when it comes to your siblings. So you can't complain to me who is of a significantly younger generation about not looking for you, when it is not even in your own power to look for your own brother or to support him. So maybe he's financially superior to you. We live in a society that overly magnifies financial superiority. And I think that is where we get a lot of moral degradation. So according to you, how does a sibling relationship complement good parenting or good parenthood? In your opinion, what do you think is the ultimate sibling relationship? What is the perfect balance of it? Do you need a sibling that plays the role of the parent in the event that they are old? I have an elder sister that is, in my own opinion, a little bit nagging because she carries some of the characters of my mother. But there are moments when I appreciate her. I am objective enough to tell the difference between when someone has the best intention at heart, whether or not I like what they are telling me. I carry that objectivity. So according to you, what is the ideal sibling relationship that would eventually or in turn or subsequently complement good parenthood or parenting?
Thank you so much, Warren. And I'll go back to how I started the conversation when I was opening up. Mine is going to be majorly about a reflection of my own life and where I come from. And being able to be born in a group of 8 people, and by God's grace, I was in the middle. So I've literally tested what it means to be followed and what it means to follow. Now, I have an elder sister, Joanne, who was pretty much a second mother to me. She's way older than me by about 15 years. And when I was growing up, when Joanne made a directive, there was no doubt it was an equation of what my mom would do. There was no, contestation of whether I would have to wait for a second opinion. She would state a position, and all of us would have to follow through, whether we like it or not. And certainly, I don't know how God does it. She is literally helping me raise my own children. And my kids know they're being raised by a very tough woman. Joanna has been a tough woman from way back up to where we are. I can assure you now that even when I have grown, I have been able to, set out myself and make my own shots. Certainly, so many times I've had to seek her opinion, or our opinion has overridden what I have thought about so many situations. So there is that where there is a sibling or siblings that will be more as mentors to the younger siblings. And the reverse is true, because I have younger siblings that by God's grace have been perhaps exemplary to them, about 3 brothers down below me. And because of what I was able to feed on from my predecessors, my elder siblings, I know the role I have to play in my siblings, lives. things to do with safety and fallback, my siblings will have to, and by and large, literally every person, their sibling is literally their safety and fallback position. There are times where a sibling, for example, has fallen sick and is going through a difficult situation, whether it's a marriage breakdown, they have got married to very violent men or violent women, or something is just not working out for them. They have no job, they have just graduated from university, or they made mistakes in the decisions that they made along the journey. Now, it literally means that we owe them that kind of support and courage, that things can get better, that they are not on their own. Unfortunately, there are so many families that are disintegrated, where this warmth, this unity, this harmony is not exhibited. But it's something that misses, and I feel for people who are just born alone. If at all you're born on your own, perhaps you don't know your mother, or you don't know your father, or you are born by both your parents, but you're literally born alone. You miss out on that kind of reinforcement that siblings provide. And this whole rivalry that we always talk about, sibling rivalry, because God blesses people differently, or we are talented in different aspects. And because life is a marathon, sometimes you're able to achieve your goals way faster than your younger siblings or even older siblings. You may be a little bit more lucky and advantaged more than they do, and you're able to accomplish some things. You get a little bit of some money more than them, or even in the long term, you become wealthier than they are. And what does that mean is that even when they will create some negative energy because of envy that comes in siblings. You've built a better country home than any of your siblings, and they would have wished for the same. You've been able to attain a second degree or even a PhD, and all of them would have aspired for the same, but it never came through. You've been able to, so some even are small and petty, but because you are raised in the same household, you literally think you should all be able to achieve, because why not? The parameters are literally the same, but things never work out like that. So it creates some push and pull somewhere, and even when the parents get a little bit older now, where they need a little bit of your attention in terms of healthcare, provision, a father and a mother, they're out in retirement and they want to have someone that they can be able to call in case of scarcity or lack. Who are they comfortable with? Sometimes, let me give you an example with my father. I was never the first boy, but my father was very comfortable with me. I don't know up to today why my father, even on him passing away, I was the only present child, because I think perhaps it was easier for him, or he found ease in dealing with me. Did it mean that he regarded other children differently? I doubt. But this can create some kind of negative energy with other children, some rivalry, because the parents kind of deal with children differently. So, and but they love all their children. So it creates that kind of aspect. But what is the role that siblings play in others' lives? Sibling must be able to count on you. They have been able to meet so many strangers. It's only you that they've met and known for years. They knew you when they were toddlers and then gone through the stages of life. So they have, in a way, think they should be able to count on you. Give them the support, the motivation that they need. Sometimes you'll have to open your door for them to come in when things are going bad. They will have to count on you when everyone simply cannot be counted on. Loyalty is very rare these days. A sibling must be able to think you're loyal, and you'll be there for them each time. Invaluable bond. A sibling thinks you're intertwined, and it's something that should never be separated by anything. However much you have a new partner in your life, a siblings kind of thinks they're supposed to occupy that special place in your life, even when you have other people that come into your life later on, in helping raise the children. Sometimes families get disintegrated, families fail, marriages collapse, and the woman has to walk out with the children. Sometimes because they have a job and they cannot carry the children, sometimes they're married, but they're working long distance, and they will count on you to help them, nurture the children. have them for holiday, you know, sometimes go and visit them, you know, during visitation days. And this is all counting on you as a sibling for support in whichever way, emotionally, spiritually. Sometimes someone is going to be diagnosed with cancer, you know, or stage 4 cancer. Everyone will walk away, you know, literally. Someone is going to be on that deathbed alone, perhaps with a wife if they are lucky, and their children. Who else will they count on? Their sibling. They will think when everything, the lights are out and, you know, the world is getting real and life is just getting so miserable, they only have a sibling to count on, you know, to raise those, you know, alarms, you know, when things are going bad, you know, have those call outs in need of help, you know. So it's important that how we deal with siblings is very important. Sometimes we may be disappointed. That is very true. You know of a sibling that you've lent money and they have not paid it back and they don't even plan. There is a sibling that you have that is just spoiled. They're just never grateful. You know, you have chosen a path that is just destructive. But this is your brother, this is your sister, you know. They have made mistakes. Someone says, I'll not go back to school. I am not interested in school. But later on, they realize that they're the only people that are outliers. They made a decision that was bad. How are you going to cast them down and, you know, condemn them and rebuke them and just let them disappear in oblivion? Or you must lend them a hand and lift them up and give them hope that things can get better. So a sibling is a very important person in anyone's life. That this relationship, one, must be able to create fruit for both of them. It should not be one-sided. Someone should be able to give and take, you know, where it should not be you always giving to your siblings and there is nothing that they can have in return, because we know the help may not necessarily be commercial or monetary, but there is a lot of stuff that our siblings can do. You know, some encouragement, some feedback on how you started a business. Can they be able to come to your shop if it's a hardware and they are constructing a house? Will they buy cement from you and not choose to buy somewhere else? Will they be able to pay back? Will they be able to, you know, be there for you even where other people may not necessarily be there? On promotions, will they celebrate with you when you're promoted? You're an executive director, you're a managing director. Will be able, even upon death, you know, on succession, siblings must be able to, you know, safeguard the interests of the deceased brother or sister, because it's important. Someone is going to die. They have not left a child, but they have left assets. How will they be able to safeguard some of these, you know? How will they be able, sometimes in African families, a sibling will know that a man has a family somewhere else that they've never declared to their wives. And a sibling knows, you know, some of those secrets. So it is that role that is very important, that is undisputed, and it's irreplaceable. A sibling is literally irreplaceable. They occupy a space that the world and all other people may not be able to occupy. The role they play is very profound. You know, so in this, it's important that we all take the relationship that we have with our siblings, very important, rekindle the love. You know, think about the childhood memories when you had to grow and move through the different stages of growth, you know, and the times, the risks you made, you know, until where you are at, and be able to celebrate the achievements. If at all, there've been any lapses or failures, you encourage each other. But the rivalry may not necessarily stop because we are human beings. You may envy, but it has to be balanced. You must be able to know that, you know, I've not been able to achieve that, but let me join them and celebrate them. You never know. Today, they've been able to make it. I may make it another time, you know. So it's very important. Relationships are very important to all of us. And I think about parents who have been able to raise godly children, inculcating them values that are not only culture, but are universal. You've been talking about values and culture. And I had my good friend Eric talking about this. There are values that are universal, you know, respecting people, you know, being kind, being gracious, you know. These do not have to do with whether someone is a Muganda or a Mchiga or a Mohoro or a Muhima, whatever it is, you know. They are universal values that all of us
must be able to either pass on to the toddlers and the children, or even celebrate among our siblings and have it unify us and keep us moving going forward. I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Wesige, for that input. Very enriching and very, very insightful. Um, I usually say the hardest thing to do, or the biggest deterrent to moving forward or getting things
Warren,
done,
are you there?
is aligning mindsets. Yes, I am there.
Then you get squared. I was like, yeah, yes, it just hit deep on the head. You know, like the
No, no,
acceptable values throughout the globe. So we must be able to align our children with those values. So I was waiting for you to come back.
yes, I'm there. I'm sorry. I think my mouthpiece was not very in a very good position. But I was saying, thank you so much, Mr. Wesuge, for that insightful presentation, for that very rich presentation about siblings and their role or their importance in complementarity rather than competition. And I added on, or I went on to say that it's I usually say that the hardest thing to do in any society, the biggest or the most, one of the most important things to have in place is aligning mindsets to the same goal, or to have the same vision, such that they can be moving forward. Along the way, seeing as it is that being a sibling to someone might not necessarily guarantee that you'll go to the same schools or have the same dreams or meet the same people, mingle with the same people. Along the way, mindsets might change, and seeing as it is that there's also a difference in sexes, mindsets might change along the way. So maybe that could be a contributing factor to the differences that happen. I would like to welcome our very, very present, very constant dialoguer, Mr. Katumwesji Anthony. Please unmute and tell us what you think. And you have 5 minutes. Let me give you a definitive time. Today I would like to close on time, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to tell us what you think. And as always, you're welcome.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. 5 minutes. I'm going to do my best. So, intentional parenting, I think we've got it wrong. What is the difference between intentional parenting and unintentional parenting? For me, I think that is wrong, because I think it should be that everyone should be ready to take on the responsibility to be a parent if that time comes. There's nothing like intentional parenting. If you bring a life into this world, that life does not know the conditions that you are in to come here. You know, they want to survive. They want a good life. So the question that comes to you, how do you do that? As a parent or as a future parent, you sit and look at your child and be like, what do I want my child to be? I want my child to be liked. I want my child to be hardworking. I want my child to have a set of values. How do you work on them? So you have to understand, you as a parent, there are limits where you should stop when you're raising a child. Especially, you should not allow to compromise individual independence of like kids. Whenever kids are doing stuff on their own, they are figuring out the world. They are learning. You don't have to compromise their learning. And this happens normally with parents who love their kids so much. When a kid is stressed by homework, you find the parent is calling someone else, like, come on, help my kid, is going to fail. There are boundaries that the parent should stop, because if you compromise the individual independence of the kid is going to suffer in the near future, because what you want out of this kid, you have a certain set of values. You want them to be liked by the others. How do they do that? They become personally responsible. They become hardworking. We all know that starts within how parents socialize their kids. Some of them don't want their kids to play with others. Some of them don't even teach kids that sharing is okay. So, but these are simple, small things that you should observe. Also, as a parent, you also need to know how your kid behaves with others. Is your kid a bully? How do you know that? Understand? So what I want us to agree on. How do I do that? That's the question you should ask yourself. It means you have to look at your life. Much as I want to support my kid, but I also want to have this kid to be able to grow up. You understand? So you need to fix time. You have to provide for the kid, but fix enough time. At least you can go and take them to games where they are playing from. See how do they socialize? Are they bullying others? Can they share? Can they reciprocate? Because that's how we deal with one another. There are kids whom we see as not being friendly, yet it is within their deficiencies. You understand? So you also need to teach your kid how to stand up for themselves, in terms of, if you are in a situation whereby someone is going to take advantage of you, you need to speak up. Otherwise, your kids are going to be they're going to be taken advantage of. So I still think, much as we can be good parents, but we can also
Mr.
go
Anthony,
beyond.
you're breaking on my end. I don't know whether everyone else is facing the same problem, but you're breaking on my end. I think you should limit it to audio, because you keep breaking.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello? Warren?
Yes, please. You are breaking. That's why I was asking you to limit it to audio.
Okay, so one of the values that you have to make sure your kid grows up with are values of knowing how they should live life, in terms of they should do the right things. It means you appropriate, you make the right sacrifices for each of the things you are supposed to do. It means if you have schoolwork, don't come home and just run on TV. Do schoolwork. You have 1 hour of TV. And I'm not going to patrol you. I'm not going to do that. And then on Saturday, we can play or go out. So you teach them how to reciprocate with their friends. You also teach them not also to be over dependent on their friends. So this improves their effectiveness as kids. And a very effective kid is liked by everyone. Let's look at the sports kids. We all have been in high school, and
Mr.
everyone.
Anthony, you have a minute and a half.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
You
a
have
minute
about
and
a
a half.
minute
And that's 2 minutes because you've interrupted me. So look, now on this, let's look at these kids that normally play soccer in school, or sportsmen in school. They are admired by everyone because they are able to learn the art of playing in a team. So that means they know how to share. They know how to become effective. So these are the kids whose parents, we might think that whose parents did not compromise their individual responsibility and their individual decision making. So it's the same thing. If your kid is like that and is able to learn how to play well with others, he's going to be loved by everyone, protected by everyone. But also about siblings. What I know about siblings is that you can look at the story of Cain and Abel. So that's where the story of Cain and Abel brings out the punishment that comes to you when you do inappropriate sacrifices. So if one of your siblings is not doing the right things and you are doing the right things and you succeed, just know it's going to play out the same story, the same way. Envy, jealous, and all of that. You have to know that they are there. But for you as a sibling, what do you do? What you do is that you play your part. You don't look out for trouble, but you try to make peace, because at the end of the day, it's the only thing that can create the love. You know, much as my brother is like this, but there's no way, it doesn't mean I should be mean to him as well. I just act the way I'm supposed to act. So with that, I would like to yield today, but thank you for the discussion.
Okay, thanks ever so much, Mr. Katumwesija Anthony, for always being a part of us and always giving your opinion and view on what you think. I am going to find a new name for you, which is unfortunately biblically it's more of the on the side of the enemy, but I'm going to call you the one who is opposed. You always love to challenge. You always love to help us see things from a different perspective. We shall maintain the good side of it, not necessarily the entire context of the one who is opposed. But thanks ever so much for that contribution and for always contributing to these dialogues. We have 10 minutes left, and I don't see any other query per se. I'm going to ask all the presenters to give their concluding remarks. And within the chat, there are details for Humura Therapy and Keza Psychology Center for those of you that need that information. There are those free online counseling services at www.humoratherapy.com. In case you need help, we are passionate about mental health. You can log in and lodge in your complaint or your query or your issue, and you will be assisted accordingly. So I'll start with Mr. Westgate. Could you give us your concluding remarks?
Thank you so much, Warren. And I want to thank every person that has been a part of this. Special shout outs to the hosts and the organizers of this engagement. It's always a blessing to always come here and share some of this. Now, my parting shot is to all parents out there. I believe we make a mistake of trying to make our children not go through what we went through. If you moved kilometers to fetch water, to fetch firewood, you don't want your children to go through the same. Forgetting that's what shaped the person that you are. Certainly because you are chased from school because of school fees and all requirements, and now you want your children to live in abundance and surplus and have it all that they want and wish for. That's a mistake. I think we must accept that we only play our part as parents. The God in heaven created these people and put them in our lives. There is literally very little that we can do, but very much that we can contribute. Certainly, you know a parent or parents that are upright, but have lost it on their children. Don't judge them and castigate them to think they have failed, but perhaps they have played a role that they could have as parents. But children are totally and distinctly different. My take home for all the parents out there, be kind to yourself. You'll not be able to figure out everything for your child. I think accept that sometimes this child will get out of your hands. All you can do is equip them with the tools to make the right decisions. Sometimes they will make mistakes. Sometimes they will go against your wish. But this is all that they have to go through to be the great men and women that you ever dreamed them to be. And for the siblings, these are people that we didn't choose. We were born, and before we know it, we either found these men and women in our homes, in our families, in our, they've been a part of our journey ever since we got to understand. Some have gotten on our nerves. Some are very different from us. Some are as lazy as it can get. But we have not gotten the opportunity to choose our siblings. God has made it. Let us hold their hands. Let us support them. Let us be there for them. Let us be the brother's keeper that the Bible calls on. But the leaders out there, especially those in the church, the mosques, and all religious leaders, by and large, there is a big role and a virtue to fill. That you have to pass on knowledge, information, through the preachings, material, literature, whatever it gets, and complement, supplement, and help the parents. The teachers out there that deal with the children for 3 months and they come home for less than a month. These children spend more time at schools than in homes. A teacher, you have a responsibility. Please be kind to our children. Make sure there is value for money. It's more than the salary you take home, but you must inculcate the values that you would even on your own children, because this is the calling that you chose for yourself.
And to the old people across the world, I think we should remember it was only good that the children are raised by the entire community. It is not wrong to correct a child simply because you're not the father or mother. Play your role. I think if all of us have good and create good households and families, the things to do with what we hear in Ukraine and Russia, what we hear in the gay parades and assemblies, what we hear in Yemen, Libya, Afghanistan, what we hear elsewhere in the world where there is destruction, war, famine, and hunger would be a thing of the past if the issue of family, children, and values is sorted. I want to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to air my opinion. Catch me every Saturday on the big set from 9 a.m. to 11, where I continue to discuss issues that touch the ordinary life of a Ugandan. God bless you all, and I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Wesiga. I hope to be a part of that big seat because I like Katunji, I'm very insightful when it comes to such issues. So we look forward to being a part of that, and we'll always welcome you here. Madame Kabagaya Estella, could you please give us your concluding remarks?
Thank you so much, Warren. Thank the organizers of this amazing dialogue. I'm glad I logged in. I'm glad I was African statement that I always hold to. Whereas, like Wesley just said, whereas some parents may not like it for people to interfere in their parenting style, we do this for the good of the children. Just look at your child as a parent and know what is the best my child I would want for my child, and please seek to have the best. Seek for the best values, and if you can't impart the values yourself, seek support. Like they said, we have siblings who hold the same values. We have teachers that we can request not only to bring the best grades, but also support us as parents to have the best values, so that we work as a team, we work as a community to help these children thrive and be the best that we really dream of them to be. Let's hold on to our siblings, because if we don't hold on to our siblings, we lose the power of the smallest community, which is a family. So let's hold on to our siblings. Let's not forget and disrespect our biggest parenting partner. And in this day and era, it's the teacher. Let's respect the teacher. Let's make them understand the values that we want in our children, so that it can be easy for them to support us. Make sure the children have the same values. Otherwise, I'm so grateful that we had this conversation. I didn't want it to end anyway, but I'm so grateful and excited that I was a part of it. And thank you so much, team, for hosting us. Thank you.
Oh, well, we are on every other Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. So on the event or on the note that it's sending and you're not happy about that, please always tune in on Friday. And you'll get more insight, or you listen into more of these, varying from all kinds of topics. But thank you so much as well for honoring the invitation to be a panelist. We are eternally grateful to you. And lastly, Miss Molly Businje, before I close.
Yeah, thank you so much, the listeners and everyone who has contributed to this. Thank you to the organizers for giving us the platform to share knowledge. I will conclude by talking about siblings. I want to ask all of us as parents and even as brothers and sisters to always know that family and relationships, they are inseparable. You can deny any other thing, but you can't deny your family, whether they are good or bad, poor or rich. So family is at the center and is very vital when it comes to the success of everything in life. So as parents, we should not compare our children, but we should not compare and show them favoritism, but we should teach them that they need to be there for one another and support one another. Because when we compare them, it breeds the pride, it breeds the competition, it breeds all those things, that envy and all those things we are talking about. So as a parent, you must know that you are the center of even the center of the relationship, the success of of the relationship, the success of your children's relationship. You are the one at the center. You must direct them. You must teach your children to love one another. I come from a big family. We are many children, like 28. But I remember our father would always tell us, leave the issues of the women and love each other because for you, your siblings. And that has helped us pull through. So I want to encourage the parents to always tell your children, always teach them to love each other, regardless of everything, beyond their conflicts, beyond everything. Number two, teach them to set boundaries. Let them set boundaries. Let them know, even if you're my brother, let them know that in as much as you're my brother, there is somewhere I have to stop. For example, if I'm married and I have sisters and brothers, if they come to my home, they must know that in my home I am married, and in my home there is a man above me. So they must know where to stop and where to end. Because when you don't teach them boundaries, these are the people we find in the society who bully, who overtake people's things, the land and what, because for them they think they can go anywhere at any time and no one should hold them accountable. Number three, teach them to respect each other. I have a big girl, a teenager girl, but then she has her younger sisters. But for her in her room, she doesn't want to go there. She's a clean girl. She doesn't want people to come and disorganize. So when the sisters go there, she always tells me, but these people are not respecting me. And I call them and tell you have to respect your sister. This is her bedroom as much as you have sisters, but this is her bedroom. So you must teach children how to respect each other, not to go beyond what they're supposed to be. Then the last thing is friendship. I can be your brother, but it is a choice. But being your friend is a choice. So I can be your brother. We must teach our children that in as much as they are brothers and sisters, they must work towards friendship, because you will not, people will not take advantage of you, abuse you, and do what, and then you expect them to love you the same. That's why someone was saying that even our parents love us differently because of the relationship we build with them. So that as much as we are brothers and sisters, we must get out of that level and aim higher of being friends, by being there, by being cultivative relationships, being there for one another, understanding, respecting, and accepting each other. Then the last one is about parents and potential. As parents, it is very important for us to identify our children's potential, talents, and even their personalities, because it helps you as a parent position them, and also them, it helps them to develop, to discover themselves and know where they can put their best where they can put their best feet forward, and where they should work harder. And that one will help them not fight and have those envy, because if I'm good at math, the other one is good at English, then we promote each other. Then in the areas where we are weak, we support each other. Thank you so much, everyone. May God bless you.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Molly Businje. Thanks ever so much for always honoring our invitations. Today we are on time. We managed to finish in time. I would like to thank everyone for attending. The Uganda Youth Dialogues, we're on every other Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. I would like to thank the panelists that were part of this. And I'd like to thank Kaiser Psychology Center as well, and Humora Therapy for always organizing this. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. See you next Friday.